All right, I think I have the Illustrator tracing settings that I like. And so now, let me try a few. Yeah, it's about where I want it. Maybe a few less corners, fewer corners. Yeah, I think I can work with that. That smooths out my antlers a little bit. Now remember, once I hit expand, it will turn it all into vectors that then I can work on individually. And they're all filled paths. That's actually something I like about live tracing. Everything's a filled path. It's not based on a stroke, so I can easily edit it on both sides. So for instance, if I see an edge that's too softened there, I can just go in with my pencil tool and redraw it sharper. Smooth things out, especially if I have my pencil tool set on smooth. Then I just go around and I kind of redraw it as I need to. Without overdoing it. I don't want it to look like it was made by a machine. But this is where I correct any mistakes I made in my inking, where my hand wasn't perfectly still. I had some bumpiness. And little undercuts like this. I can work with. Remember, to redraw, you have to start and end on the path. So to make that a little bit easier for myself, I try to always start drawing through an existing anchor point and end drawing through an existing anchor point. And if I want to be more accurate, I'm going to use a tablet. Now I like having my sketch digitized too. And having the PNG version of it, so I can kind of see what I had actually done, you know, in these complicated areas. And decide if I want to match them or not. Illustrator has this great way of making all the lines very even when it traces, but maybe that's not what you want. So you have ultimate control. But you also want to be open to new possibilities that make the work better. The best work is the one that communicates your message. Whatever you're trying to say. with my Christmas card, I always want to say that I worked so hard on this Christmas card for you that you shouldn't expect any gifts. Now, what's interesting about how spot illustrations work is if they have a lot going on in the line work and in the inking, especially in the shading of the inking, and this is starting to have quite a bit going on in it, then the simpler you want to be with your coloring. And so it saves you time later on to do a lot of the effects this way. But it depends what effects you're going for. So I'm trying to show with the inking a little bit of texture in this little knot of wood. And I want to be kind of a sapling oak tree. So I'm being really picky about these shapes because I need them to communicate a lot of content. That will do me favors later when it comes to coloring it. I won't need to be so exact when I color, or too descriptive. There was a time in the 90s in comic books when everything was being digitally colored, but they were still being inked like they were being hand colored. And so they were being inked with all these beautiful shadows because the coloring was usually so simple and so limited. But then when digital colorists got a hold of them, the digital colorists liked to show off what they could do, and then on top of the beautiful layered inking, they would put all this different full spectrum color, and the results were just weird to look at. They had too much going on. They were too busy. Too much of a good thing. So now we can see a much more comfortable balance between what's digitally colored and what's digitally inked or hand inked. And still, most editorial illustration is drawn by hand in pencil and then is just inked and colored digitally. Even though we have these great styluses, I still like to draw most of the time just with pencil and paper. That might change over time as well. Now remember, if I want to cut a hole in what I have to draw a new shape. Then I have to select that and the shape around it, which is a little complicated, like that. And then I have to use the Pathfinder tool and exclude it, and then turn everything back to black. Whoops, without an outline. And that will give me a cutout that I can then manipulate. So if you lose a cutout that you want, that's how you get it back. And remember, you can use Command-Z in Illustrator. Get you back where you started as many times as you like. I'm getting a little lost in details here, so it's good to zoom out and look at the big picture. So there are some places where I inked a little too heavily, like that. And this is a lot easier to fix in Illustrator than it is to fix in Photoshop. Just to smooth it out. I can even use the smooth tool, which is under the pencil tool. And that's for when things are really close to where you want them, but they're just a little bumpier than you would like. I'm okay with a little bumpy. All right, let me cut a hole here. Again, I draw with the pencil tool the shape I want. I then select it with the shape around it, and then I exclude, and then convert it back to black without a stroke. All right, so I think I've got my refined line work now. So now I need to save this so it's versatile. It can be brought into other programs and worked with. And so I save it. This is the first time I'm saving it, actually, in Illustrator. I save it as an EPS file. I won't even keep it as an AI file. So I'm going to call this Carl's ink spot. It's no longer a test, now it is a vector. It's only a test when I'm bringing it in to be traced. And I make it an EPS file to the desktop. I'm going to keep all of these options with transparency, because it's just the black lines. Okay. Now you can see the difference. That's the raster version. If I open this up in preview, you'll see the vector version. Much cleaner. Much bolder, better suited to what I'm going to use it for. All right. So once all of those revisions in Illustrator have been made, we go back to Photoshop. And close this. I'm going to make a new file that's suitable for printing. So Carl Spot Illustration. It's assignment 7. I want it to be large, so let's make it